Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Morning Cafe. Today is Thursday. That means it's Matters Health Thursday. This morning we're talking matters mental health, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. Basically a month recognized globally and set aside to create awareness about matters mental health. And this week is Mental Health Awareness Week that began on the 12th of May, going all the way to the 18th of May. This year's theme is Turn Awareness into Action. Are we really making progress in terms of just not talking about awareness in regards to mental health, but actually just ensuring that we have access to medication, we have enough facilities just to cater to matters mental well-being. Points to note, mental health burden is still an issue in Kenya. About 1 in 4 Kenyans is likely to experience a mental health condition in their lifetime. And common conditions that you're talking about: depression, anxiety, substance use disorders, and of course bipolar disorders, which are the most reported. We have others that are underreported, and we are recording around 500 deaths by suicide annually. That is the conversation you're having this morning. We have a very big panel in studio with us to help us talk about this topic, as well as the myths and misconceptions, the stigma surrounding mental health in Kenya. We're inviting you to be part of this conversation on our social media platforms, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, on X at TV47 News KE. You can tag me as well as at @N_Dida. In a few, there will be a number on your screen. We are taking calls as well, so we'll be very, very happy to hear from you, even as you contribute to the topic of the day, that is mental health awareness. Karibuni sana, ladies and gentlemen, to TV47.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to start with you, Celestine, because you're a psychologist at the Nairobi Women's Hospital, and I assume you're in a position to tell us this. How are we doing as a country in terms of just ensuring that there is progress in terms of mental health care in the country?
Thank you so much, Dida. I appreciate this opportunity. And talking about mental health issues as a country, I feel like we are in a position whereby we need to create more awareness. Yeah, we've done that, but we need to put more effort in terms of creating awareness to people. Yes.
Where are the gaps? Why are we not creating more awareness? Because I understand that we have around 3 months in a year just dedicated to celebrate to create awareness around, mental health care and mental well-being. If we have October, November, and May, yet we're still saying that there's still, a disconnect in regards to just ensuring that we're talking more about mental well-being and mental health care in the country. So where are the gaps exactly?
Okay, going straight to the gaps, I believe that there is awareness out there, but not many people have been reached actually with the mental health information. Yeah, there are also issues to do with stigma, and this really makes it difficult for people to accept. And speaking from a psychologist's perspective,
yes,
is that many times mental health is not taken like a serious issue in the country. Yet we understand that mental health issues are just the same as the other health issues. The way you get sick and you go to hospital, maybe for malaria and all that. It's the same way we need to take seriousness when it comes to mental health. Yes.
All right, Salat, what do you wish you knew about mental well-being and mental health? Because this is a topic that most of the people talk about, and they say that sana you people don't talk about your mental well-being, but we'll be getting into that as we progress with this conversation. But when you hear about mental well-being, mental health, what comes to mind?
Okay, from my perspective as a student leader and President Emeritus, Islamic University of Kenya, and Kajiado County Universities and College Student Association President as well. So, mental health is not mostly talked about in universities, but it is a real issue that is taking form and shape in our universities. It's not given the attention that it requires because, I believe we have our bodies, and then we have our minds and our brains. So mental health is most probably ignored, and when it comes to universities and university students, depression, anxiety, life is not that good in comrades, and so that in turn affects the university students, and now it's a topic that is not discussed
in schools.
In schools, and there is no measures that universities take, or maybe schools take to create room for this kind of conversations, despite the fact that universities have guidance and counseling departments which are also very dormant. Yes.
All right. Let's hear from Chelangat, if that's the case, from where you come from. What Salat is talking about, I don't know if you are a student, but is this Salat is talking about that gap in schools, that there is nothing that exists to just ensure that these students maybe who want to get access to mental health services are helped. So do you also see that gap in the institution that you're in?
Thank you so much, Anne. From my perspective as a student, I'm a student at the Catholic University. So I'll say the main challenge with us, the young people, matters mental health. This being, it's mental health is actually a process, but we tend to look at the destination and the end product, not minding of the current state that you are in as a person, because you'll feel like you're just healthy, but deep down something is eating you up, and you can't really get to someone to talk to. You feel like, who am I going to talk to? And the other issue being, you may really talk to, but who are we talking to? Because you'll find that, we had this issue, but now the person I went to, instead it becomes a big issue instead of finding the solution. You'll find that a student is having some challenges, maybe academically, which is at times overwhelming. You go to the various departments, but you don't really get help. Going back to your parents, who we feel are the best people to talk to, you get shattered. So that's the other issue. It builds up, because now you get depressed, which leads to frustrations. And equally, you wouldn't, everyone will look at you feeling like you're healthy, but internally you're hurting, internally you're broken. And something that is equally very common among the people, you'll find that heartbreaks. And people, it feels like, we are still young, but that's the main thing that affects the young people. There is the pressure of, this one is doing well in the relationship, why can't I also venture into this? And you find that for you, it doesn't work well. And that's the problem, because who are we even talking to? When we go to the church, instead you're being told, no, at this point you're not even supposed to be in a relationship, which is actually affecting. And thank you.
All right. Celestine, when Chelangat is talking about, relationships, sometimes it leads people into these mental health conditions that exist. Then, at Wakitambo, they never had such cases that somebody has broken up with you, you're divorced, and then you're falling into depression. Was it always something that was there? Amasai, it's becoming more prominent. What exactly is happening that right now people can't handle cases like breakups? We've talked about, we have a segment here every Wednesday where we talk about relationships. We see that men most of the time can't handle rejection. So what exactly is happening?
Oh, thank you so much. And what I can say is that it's not like these things never used to happen. It's just that they used to happen, and they were just left it at that. No one would come out and speak about them. But in the current age that we are living in, the youth are vocal. The youth talk about these issues. And so you find that you find that this is now how we are getting to know like the issues that are rising up. We see them in many numbers, Unlike Kitambo, people never used to really talk about these issues.
So is it the way we are handling them now that is the problem, or what Kitambo handle it better? Or how should now the young people handle such cases of, say, breakups and other issues that are, affecting the youth? Just hold on to that. Let's get this call. Evans, good morning. How are you?
Morning, I'm fine.
Talk to us.
I was asking,
Evans?
what are the healthy ways to cope up with stress or anxiety? Yeah, that was my question.
Evans, come again. We didn't get you here in studio.
I'm fine. My question was, what are the healthy ways to cope up with stress or anxiety?
Healthy ways to cope with stress. Thank you so much, Evans, for that question. Of course, we have Celestine here, who is a psychologist, and will be helping us to understand that psychologists at the Nairobi Women's Hospital. That is Evans' question. Even before you get to mine, let's answer him first.
Thank you so much, Evans, for your question. It's a good question. And in the times we are living in right now, information in terms of mental health is not where it used to be a long time ago. Yeah, and it's also important to understand on how you can handle issues in life, because issues in life are inevitable. And it's important to understand when going through issues, how are you able to go through the issues and even have solutions to them. So one important thing is usually acceptance. You know, when you face an issue, it's important for you to try and accept the reality of what you're going through. And sometimes people are got drowned in guilt, you know, but it's important to if there was to know that if there was something you would do to change the situation, you would have done. But the fact that you haven't done it to change, it means that it was beyond you. So it's important to also don't allow the issues to get so much to you and be overwhelmed by guilt. Yeah, another coping mechanism is you can look for activities to do, engage yourself in certain activities, you know. You can decide to take walks, you know, you can decide to jog, you can decide to run, you can do an activity that you like most.
Yes.
Yes.
Evans, I hope Celestine, a psychologist, has answered your question. If not, you're allowed to call in one more time. But now to the question, of course, before we get to the rest of the panel, you were talking about how the young people are now handling breakups. They're saying it leads to depression, we've seen people killing each other, of course, because of breakups. So how are we handling it now as compared to how the older generation did, and what should we be doing better?
Okay, thank you for that question also. Perhaps let me pick it from the current times we are living in. The youth are not, there's a gap between the parents and their children. So you realize that the young adults are not so close to their parents. So whenever they go through issues, they're not able to share freely, you know. Yeah, they just keep quiet to themselves. They don't seek for help, and eventually it builds up, and you realize that they are not okay at all. Yeah, but what I would encourage a youth who is going through that, it's important to speak out. You know, look for someone you can talk to, share, speak your heart, and through speaking, you know, it helps relieve the burden that is within. Yeah, and also therapy is very important because therapy helps an individual to process whatever they are going through. Yeah, and it also, it's usually a safe space where an individual is allowed to speak out, you know, show their emotions, if it's crying, if it's rolling down, whatever. And that space is usually very important for an individual because he or she gets time to pour out whatever is inside, and it's very therapeutic.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Celestine, for that. But Colin, how is the situation? I want to tell people that I'm not butchering your name. It's actually Colin, not Karen. How is this situation in your institution? Like, are students speaking more about their mental health conditions, situations, well-being? Is there a gap? Are you talking more in school?
Okay, thank you so much, Dinda. I'm Kalen Karemi, Deputy President, Emirates. So at the East African University, I guess the main challenge here is people don't know how to talk. And if they know how to talk, they don't know who to go to talk to. Because in the most universities, you find that most issues are either they have issues with relationship, early pregnancies. You don't know how to handle you are pregnant at early ages. Relationships are affecting you. And then you find when I come, maybe I have a friend I come to talk to, maybe I fear being judged. So you find most people, the most challenge which is causing most mental health awareness, and also gambling mostly has become in most institutions, where you find there maybe an app that is, you are told you, when you do this, you'll get money. Like we say example, Aviator, you have gone, you have your money, your school fees, and it is gone, and you are told you'll get money. So you find most people have that challenge. And when I come, I tell, example, my friend, the person will judge me. So the most people, why there is so a big challenge about mental health, because people fear being judged. And then they don't know the right channel of where will you talk to. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kalen, for that. And we have two Joshes there behind. I'll start with King Josh. What exactly is the challenge when it comes to speaking about mental well-being, especially in institutions of higher learning?
Okay. Thank you. Well, first of all, I would like to start by saying that mental health is no longer an issue. It's more of a pandemic among the youths. It's just been exacerbated to another level, considering issues and the end results that we see, for example, suicides and everything. So the biggest challenge that we are having in the institutions, maybe governmental, churches, and various places that we are made to believe are the best avenues that we can pour our problems, is that we have a big difference between the individuals taking part in these issues. In that we have the young man or woman who is handling or going through a certain problem, and we have this individual who should be helping. The gap therein is the issue of age, or it's a matter of age. We have lived in totally different worlds. These, I'm speaking of the pressures that we are going through, maybe academic-wise, economic-wise, social-wise, it's totally different. And what they went through, to some extent, they can't handle or they can't even understand. Sometimes our old guards are unable to handle these issues in a better way. It's not because, or it's not out of malice. It's simply because we are living in different worlds. In that, come to think of it, you know, if we speak of our parents in the, okay, let's speak of 20th century, when they lived as young people. The issue concerning dating and relationship, as she has pointed out, was something different from what we are handling nowadays. For example, considering the issues on social trends and everything else, it's just different. For example, we are handling, when you go to TikTok, for example, the issues are being handled in a different way, or rather, people posting out they are happy in their relationships or something, and you're just young, they're your fellow teenagers, and you don't know how to handle it. At the same time, in the church, you're being told, you know, as a young person, you should not be taking part in this. So how should I go about it, whereas your fellows are doing this and doing that? So one thing that we realize is that our society is living in denial. Sometimes it's an issue of theatrics. It's not what's happening on the ground. So first of all, for us to be able to handle these challenges, that we have to accept that these individuals, so these young people are going through a different phase or a different way of life. In that, let's incorporate more individuals who are experts and more so youths to be able to handle these individuals. In that, you know, my story, when I just decide to present it to the dean of students, she might be really mesmerized. That's something totally different. Like, you mean you met her online on WhatsApp and you trusted her? Mine, no, mine was a fellow classmate, you know, something else. You know, we have online dating apps and everything else, something totally different, something that you can't even be able to explain. So what I would say is this: we really appreciate these old people and they are really important. We usually say old is gold, and that is correct. And for us to avoid the dormancy in these institutions when handling these issues, we should allow the young people to venture or get into the spaces so that we can understand each other. And more, that's why we will be offering avenues for the young people to pour out their views and what they think and everything else. And that is exactly what I do with my movements and everything else. You know, it's just, you create it in a way that, you know, you understand more, and more people are always opening up, you know. For example, we have this issue of Queen Ama in universities, you know. Sometimes if you go to tell somebody else or somebody older than you, they might not really understand. But for you who is already in the shoes, somebody, for example, because of my avenues or associations that I work with, I've gotten a dozen of people. You know, it's easy telling me than really going out talking to somebody else, you know. Like, the moment that you are a fellow youth, it's create a different space that enables you or enables the other party that is being affected to speak out. So the challenge is that gap, and the only way, it's not that we should like to extinguish the individuals who are already holding the places in government, institutions, churches, and everywhere else. No, may they incorporate the young people so that we can be able to handle such issues. For example, I'm going to start a national association coming soon. What I'd just like to say is that you are not starting here to just challenge anybody. You want them to understand or to get these things in a different view. For example, it's more of partnering, you know. Your ideas should be incorporated in this, but more so what I've come to realize is that we are facing something different from what people used to experience in the 20th century, for example, or a few years ago, you know. It's really changing very fast.
Sawa, sawa.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josh, for that. And Josh, you're the Secretary General, Kuska. You'll tell us how it's pronounced. But how is the situation like in your institution in regards to mental health care, mental health, mental wellness? How is the situation like?
Thank you so much, Anne, for having me. And just to clarify, KUKSA is Kajiado Universities and Colleges Student Association. Yeah, but also speaking as the President Emeritus from the Management University, I can say people tend to normalize mental illness in the sense that whenever someone is not okay, they try to figure it and see out like somebody else was this way. These are normal issue. They can just snap out of it, you see. So, and also I think speaking of the current generation compared to the old, you find that in the olden times, people, you find that girls or boys were used to be brought up together and guided and trying to be educated in some how to stay and all that. So whenever they encounter into relationships and so forth, they could handle it easily compared to now, whereby students, they don't engage in such seminars. So you find that apart from the relationship they have in school, they don't have any more education if their parents don't take them through this awareness. Yeah.
All right. We have new faces on set, and we have Rhoda Kariuki, there is also a counseling psychologist to assist Kenya. Rhoda, it's good to have you in studio once again. And I want to ask you this question. I asked Celestine as well. She's also a psychologist. But from where you sit, how big is the mental health burden in the country now? Are we walking in the right footsteps in terms of just ensuring that there is enough mental health care access in the country? Yes.
Thank you so much, Anne, for having me. And yes, there's a very heavy burden of mental health in the country. And currently, it's not just around the youth. You know, it's affecting everyone across all ages. And it's so big because, one, because of the difficult economic times that we are living in. And so you find that so many people are not able to meet day-to-day lives, you know. And that creates a difficult time, even for psychologists, because as much as I would like to work on your psychological well-being, the social issue or the finances needs to be sorted first so that you can be well psychologically, because now you find people are not able, for example, they're not able to pay school fees for their own, for those who are paying for themselves, for those who are paying for their children, they're not able to pay school fees, you're not able to pay rent, you're not able to meet even just kula vizuri, you know, and especially now you also find among the youth the issue of relationships. Watu wanaachwa sana, wanaachana until there's a lot of betrayal, and people even have isolated themselves from connecting with people, and they've decided to live in isolation. And now that creates another bigger problem, because now mental illnesses, they thrive in isolation. And so that's why you find that the burden is so big. And also the issue of, you know, finding parents who are very busy. So you find that so many people have not had present parents in their lives. So you find a lot of childhood traumas, mommy issues, daddy issues, and now this person is grown up trying to figure out life, meeting this lady, and you're like, I don't get you. Then the lady is like, I also don't get you. And it's a whole roller coaster. So it's a problem that the roots are way, way deep. And the solution is there, you know, like just going for therapy. There's also now the use of peer counselors, like what he is doing, you know, being able to have peers who can be able to talk to others just to encourage them. But the burden is there, and it's also huge.
Jessica, why do you think the gaps exist, and what are the gaps that exist? You're also a psychologist, by the way, in terms of just, you know, offering mental health services in this country. What are the gaps that are existing?
First of all, thank you for having me. I would say the biggest thing is the stigmatization of reaching out and maybe securing health insurances and facilities that offer the services, the mental health services. Recently, I'll definitely give this example. There was a recent post that was circulating that Mathari Hospital, it's the most known.
Yes.
Mathari Hospital is considered a quote-unquote lunatic hospital. So you find that in the society, people have this notion that mental health is like a taboo, or you can't accept it. So we have a lot to do in just helping people understand that mental health is general health. Like when you're having a headache, or when you're having tuberculosis, if you're having maybe a depressive episode or a bipolar issue, you should just consider it as a normal issue. So among our youth, social media is accessible to everyone, almost everyone. I would say even maybe 95%. And when you look outside, when you check around the media posts, the various platforms, Twitter, Instagram, people are somehow shunning seeking therapy, especially, let me just say, among men. Men are not wired, so sociologically, men are not wired to open up or to maybe accept weaknesses. Yeah, like opening up and maybe accepting that I can't do this, something is unable to go forward. It takes a lot of strength and a lot of acceptance for them to surrender. So among men, it's taking a lot of work to tell them that it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to reach out. It's not weakness. That's a big gap. And now among the youth, the memes that circulate that I can't accessory therapy, I can't go for therapy. What is that? You know, how is it helping me? Yeah, there's so many stigma and stereotypes about seeking mental health. That's a very huge gap. And also something I'm currently working on with my colleagues. We are starting an institute called Nawiri. It's like a mental health institute that offers mental health services to youths mostly. That's where we are starting off, because mental health among the youth is a huge topic. So a big gap is the support system. We are using grants from foreign countries. So I would say the support in our country is not as rampant. The mental health issues are not as embraced in our country as out there.
But Celestine, if you're talking about stigma, such as, you know, they say stigma and myths, anasema it could be a curse, you cannot talk about matters, mental issues, mental disorders, where you're depressed in front of maybe an older person, and most of the panelists here are focusing more on the youth. So if you're saying that the older generation, maybe they never talked about their mental well-being as much as they should. So shouldn't they start from that level of just bringing awareness to the older generation as well, and to let them know that when somebody says they're depressed, there is no issue with that. And if somebody says they're anxious, it's actually something that somebody needs to get help for. So don't you think that we should be starting from the grassroots level, which is now the older generation?
And what I can say is that mental health is an issue that affects everyone, regardless of the age, you know, and awareness needs to reach each and every person. So we cannot say that we begin with the old and then we go to the youth. It should cut across.
But are they involved? Are the older generation also involved in these conversations of mental well-being?
As far as I know, I wouldn't say that they are involved in the number that in the level that is expected for them to be reached. Yeah, but as I always say, mental health awareness begins with you, begins with me as an individual. You know, the advocacy begins with me and you as an individual. You can start that from your home. And when you do that, you start that from your home, you know, it spreads to everyone else, the children, the grandparents, and all that. So when we emphasize on creating awareness from where we are, it will cut across. Yeah, and also it will be a good thing that perhaps the government can take this with so much heaviness, you know, and get to understand that it's actually like a national disaster, you know, and create mechanisms whereby awareness can be, you know, can be like in every place, in every corner of the country. Yes.
Rhoda, when you're talking about stigma, I don't know if it exists among the young people, because I know the young people now are speaking much about their mental health and mental well-being. But don't you think that we should be starting with the older generation, just like I've asked Celestine this question, because they're not involved in these conversations, they're not included. So how are they supposed to know that depression is not is bad, is sickness, it exists, anxiety equal, it's not something that should be brushed off. So how are they now involved in these conversations as you as psychologists who are there in the front line just ensuring mental health care is a topic in this country?
Okay, the older generation, unfortunately, during their time, mental health was not really an issue. And actually suffering from a mental illness was considered either, you know, it's witchcraft or, you know, you have a demonic possession and all of that. But currently now, unfortunately, it starts to affect their children. And now that is where they're coming in, when it's too late. When their children are suffering, especially now the teenagers, and now of course going out to the young adults, and then the parent is there just wondering, nini uko nayo, like what is this? You know, what do you mean unataka kupendo, unataka nikupende aje, you know? And it gets really hard for them to get to understand that until they check into a therapist office with their daughter or with their son. And that is where they are, you know, they are now educated on mental health illnesses. And also I've seen churches also coming on board where they are trying to educate the congregation on mental health. And you see, when we start from a place where the young generation finds solace in, doesn't mean that the young generation doesn't seek solace in church, but the older generation, on a bigger percentage, they seek solace in a religious center. And in those centers like churches where they start to have this conversation, you see the older generation starting to, you know, have this discussion. They're also signing up for trainings, because now you find that, like for me, where I train people on mental illnesses and mental health, you find that it's more of the older generation. With this, I mean like 45, 50, coming backwards. And you find that they're now wanting to learn, because they also drive in, you know, first I want to understand what is this before I go forward with it, even before I speak to my child or before I speak to maybe it's a teacher, you know, serving some people. And so it's a gap of information, and it has to start with them as well, just opening up and saying that I need this information. So because I don't know, let me not live in ignorance, let me go forward, seek information, even if it's just some slight information. Like for us, we offer a basic course on mental health, just for you to be able to understand what is this thing. And then once you've been able to understand, it's easier for you to, one, help yourself and also help now the young people that either it's your children or the neighbor's children or in your church or where, even if it's at work, or maybe it's your boss who maybe you find narcissistic or something, and you're able to understand this is how this person is functioning. So how do I handle this from this from my own standpoint?
All right, King Josh, why does stigma around mental illness still exist in the country despite this more public awareness around this condition? It's not a condition, around, you know, mental health care and well-being.
Okay, so thank you once more. So what I will say is that, let me say, we are living in truth.
Sorry to cut you short, King Josh, but just, I know I've said this is not a condition. Is it, from the psychologist? Is mental illness a condition? Celestine?
We have mental conditions and mental disorders. Yeah, a mental condition is whereby an individual is going through issues, but they are not diagnosed yet as having mental disorders.
So it's okay to say that mental conditions, mental illness conditions, or mental health conditions, or disorders, which is best to use?
We can say mental health, mental health issues.
All right.
Yes.
But King Josh, why is this still an issue? We're talking about stigma in 2025, despite, you know, public awareness around this topic.
Okay, thank you. So, as I was saying, we are living with truth in disguise. So we are all questioning the fact that it's more of spoken about. Who doesn't know that May is a mental health month or so? You know, it's more of we know, but it's not being acted upon as it should be. For example, we live in denial. First of all, it's an issue of acceptance, and for these people not to be stigmatized when, for example, the gathering from what my fellow panelists have been speaking about is the individual being affected, unable to reach out to somebody in fear of being judged or something. What I'm just going to say is that may our older people, for example, who are our caregivers, change their concoctional way of handling these things. For example, when it comes to issues surrounding the relationships, the anxiety and depression, it's no longer an issue of witchcraft or anything. These things are real and they are happening. So first of all, we should accept these things and stop continuing to live in what we believed in, which is totally different. We are in a different age and we should handle, accept, and move with things as they are. And therefore, individuals and more so youths, as a youth advocate, will be able to reach out to these individuals. So first of all, when it comes to churches, what they are teaching, you know, these are the greatest avenues. For example, we have the question, how can the old people get to be taught? These places are the best places that we can handle these things in a realistic manner, avoiding a lot of theories and everything else. So what I'm going to say is this, let's handle issues as they are, and when it comes to relationships, the same way, you know, kama kitambo, we used to hear of the stories, ulikuwa unarushiwa jiwe ukiwa kwako, ndio utajua amefika. Nowadays, it's much easier, online and everything. So just embrace the fact that you are...
hold on to that.
You're young.
Let's get this call from Kevin, and then you can continue with that point. Kevin, good morning.
Yeah, morning.
Yes, Kevin?
I would like to point out a few points, because for real, mental illness, so many people are being affected, mostly the youth. For like instance, so many youth are being affected with drug abuse. For real, if you see the effects of drug abuse, mental illness is always appears.
Yes.
And so, and the cause of the drug is the accessibility. Easy accessibility is always, as in, unapata ka pedi ndo ni bako. So, for real, alafu, other point is, the melanite, and the age. Opata, adiwa wanatofekana kwa for real. Unaweza expectaje niangalia kama mangu na babangu wakifight as always because of relationship. And you expect me to feel like that way. Like there's nothing affecting me. Upon for real, upon lazima ni affect you. Alafu still. Imagine tunafetiwa sana mambo na relationship. You find that nimeheartbreakiwa. Hii kitu nimeweka kwa roho. Ndo nishaanza mambo na stress, ni depression and affect leading to mental illness. Mpaka mse hata kujiua.
Yeah.
Here, ukikosa kazi, so like, agency, we don't love working hard, we love working smart.
Yeah.
Tunapata kampuni bigi hataki msichana just smart hata kama mse bado na work hard. Tunapata kazi hatupati. Inatuma ndo ushaanza madepression na kuvuma stress nini utafanyaje, utapataje usiku. Unaona tu poison piko karibu. Kunyana jiua. Bado ni mental illness. Ama unapata uzifia tu. Break tabu in family. Kama zali kufa katumaisha ambaye chiuzwe. When I because in the need of money, you sell it. That is the taboo you're breaking. Most of the taboo that you break lead to mental illness. Unapata madhara direct. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Kevin, for your call. We do appreciate you for being part of this conversation that we're having in studio this morning. And of course, as you can hear, Jessica, mostly it's about, the challenges of, unemployment, depression is still persistent in the country. Then they're really, really concerned about how to get help, who to talk to, how to get assisted. Now, how do you address that situation? Because you say there are toll lines to call, but when you call, who do you talk to? How do you explain what you know, what you're going through? Yes.
Regarding the toll numbers, they're usually free, and I think all medical centers have the access to receive any calls, either emergency calls, or if you want to give a detailed story of what you're going through. There are psychologists, counselors, or even customer service agents in line. So we usually give their services in all medical centers. But I don't know if people usually take that into consideration, because you might feel like you'll just call and maybe you won't be considered as a serious case. But I want to assure everyone that the medical centers reach out to people through the toll numbers. Since we can't reach to everyone physically, that's the most convenient way to reach to us. And also, back to being able to access the social media platforms, you can just search mental health awareness, mental health centers, and you'll get an array of medical centers that you can access services from. Yeah, like when you get, for example, there's social media optimization, where if you have given a specific disorder, it will definitely roll it out and give a specific medical center that deals with that specific disorder. So people are able to get these services by the toll-free numbers, and also searching on social media. And also I've had my colleagues talk about the churches. The churches are a very they're a very huge support system to the mental health conversation. Psychologists are brought on board. The people have embraced that mental health is taking a toll on everyone. Like you've mentioned, the older generation, the young people, and it's a community that involves every gender and every age group. So the churches are also an avenue for people to reach out to the mental health experts.
All right. Still on Evans Roda, akiongelea maneno na unemployment, of course, which is quite a challenge to the youth, and of course relationships as we talk about it. Just saying these facilities are there, these services are there, they exist, the toll-free numbers are there, the churches are there, as you experts are talking about. But how do you now start this conversation? You may call Pali, you're saying that I am depressed because of 1, 2, 3 unemployment. How do I get help? You are there as a therapist, and then approach you with the problem that I have. Where do I start from?
Okay. So of course I'm believing you for maybe a contact online and you need to call. And once you call, of course, maybe it may be a therapist who may pick up the call, or maybe it's an administrator working in the center where you've called. So the very thing that you need to start with is saying, my name is, for example, you can say my name is Rhoda and I'm calling because I want to share something that I'm experiencing. Who is the right person to speak to? If the person you've called is the right person to speak to, they will tell you, go ahead, I'm listening to you, and they'll give you time to continue talking. If it's not, they'll tell you a therapist will reach out to you. And I believe it will, like for us, we'll reach out within within 30 minutes you'll have gotten back. The therapist will call you back to ask you now, you can speak. You can tell me why are you calling us, and then you're going to be able to explain your issue. And do not shy away. The fact that you've already made that call, congratulations for getting there. And congratulations because you mastered the bravery to at least say that I'm experiencing something and I need help. And now once the therapist tells you now you can speak, share. Just say that, for example, I'm experiencing depression, or I had a boyfriend, he left me, or he did this and this, and I'm really not even able to go to school or to go to work. I'm really finding it so hard. Maybe I'm experiencing some suicidal ideations. I'm thinking I'm better off dead than alive. Say it all, and then from there, the therapist may either continue counseling you there and then call you in for an in-person session or even an online session. But the therapist is not going to just leave you there. If it's a good therapist, hatakuacha hapo. Atakusikiliza if she anaona nafaa kurefer to another person, maybe for medication. Kwanza atakuita ndani, akuassess, then akuambie now which is the right way. But so many therapists that I've encountered, they will give you the time to talk to them, explain yourself, then from there atakuambia, is it okay if you can come in to where we are? Or for example, like for us, we also offer mobile services. You tell me uko wapi, you are in Kiambu Road. So I'll come nearer to where you are, I meet you, then you are able to tell me what's going on, and unasaidika, and do not shy away from seeking help.
Yeah. All right, Salat, 2020, you mentioned the point about, myths and misconceptions and stigma as well. But we talk about at least 3 months dedicated to matters mental health, to talk about mental health and to create awareness around this. But why are we still talking about stigma in 2025 despite this public awareness? 3 months in a year.
Okay, I think the point that have been talked about by King Josh, which is the different kind of, mental issues that are intergenerational. What we are facing currently is not the same as what the older generations have been facing. So I think, they don't really understand. So as a youth, the first person you reach out to is your close people, and most probably are your parents, your guidance, or maybe a lecturer or somebody in your close proximity. So I think now people do not understand. The older generation do not have the capacity to understand what we are facing currently due to so many things that are happening. And also youth take other perspectives. Instead of reaching out, now because of this stigmatization, people after breakup, somebody goes on and do drugs, and make the condition even worse, instead of even going ahead and seeking help from the relevant authorities, such as psychologists or maybe people who deal with mental health issues. And also, the other point is about, denial. As a man or maybe as a boy, you will be told, you are a man. Like, why do you talk about breakup issues? Like, it is stigmatized, so you cannot reach out to people. So I think self-denial is also a key factor when it comes to stigmatization. You deny the fact that you are even facing this kind of mental disorder, mental condition. So yeah.
Chalana, do you think stigma is holding people back from seeking mental
that you are a leader, you are a student, at times you get overwhelmed and everyone tends to feel like you got your life worked out. So there's the fear of, once I talk to these people, how are they going to take the situation? How will they help me to handle? Here you may be looking to these offices, but there is no that safe space because of how they take you. Like everyone expects you to be perfect, let me say, and you tend to find that you won't really get that.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big...
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Morning Cafe, and the conversation you're having this morning is mental health awareness. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, month dedicated globally to celebrate and to create more awareness about mental health awareness and to celebrate the steps that have been made in regards to just making mental health care accessible to every individual. And before we went on that very short break, Chelangat, we were talking about stigma. You know, we're talking about having stigma in 2025, despite the public awareness that is being made in regards to this, situation and this conversation. But do you think that stigma is holding people back from just seeking help?
Sure, thank you so much, Anne. Yeah, I'll say stigma is still a big issue, following the societal expectation, the academic pressure, and more so the students. For instance, you've been in campus for 4 years, and let's say, for instance, something happened, issues with missing marks, or you kind of fail to do a unit. By the time you even go back to talk to your parents, by the time you get to talk to your parents, no one really gets to understand. The first thing will be you're being judged, like what were you really doing in the 4 years? What happened? You just went to school, wasted the finances instead of getting to learn. But the fact is, it's not really, okay, yeah, you might have messed up somewhere, but I still feel being judged won't be the solution, because actually it has happened, and criticizing me won't change anything. Instead, we should be finding to say, how best can we handle the situation at hand? But being that there'll be the judgment, definitely someone will not speak. So you'll feel like I'm with my peers, we're supposed to graduate this year, but I'm not, due to some reasons, I'm not able to get to the graduation list. How am I being helped? Instead, I get to be judged and mocked, like you are never serious or things like that, which is not the case. Equally, you'll find that, yeah, I have this issue from the inside, but we tend to be really delusional. You may be telling, this time we say we listen, but we don't judge. You come up, yes, speak, but instead you get judged. So at the end of the day, even yourself, you'll feel from the inside, you'll be even more frustrated. So instead of getting the help, I'm actually demoralized. So I really won't speak, and that's why we'll get issues of students killing themselves, which would have been prevented if only they were listened to. Thank you.
All right. Cullen, do you think getting access to these mental health services is easy, as the psychologists say? They say you can just call, a toll number and get somebody on the line to help you. Also seeking therapy. Do you think that this is easy from where you sit? For somebody who is a student, which most of you are, would you say it's easier?
For me, I think it's not easier, because maybe let me go and search online and get so many numbers which I'm supposed to access to get the helpline. And maybe I call that person, I'm in that depression state because of I don't have finances. And then maybe, I don't know if they pay, I'm not sure. They tell me I need to pay, so that I access it.
Kindly pass her this mic. Yes.
Maybe I need to pay so that I can access the services. So you find mostly it's not easier. And then maybe I call that person. I also fear being charged of whatever I'm telling that person. And then maybe in this generation, as we are young and our parents were older, maybe the person sitting there listening to me is a bit older. And for them, I guess maybe when I tell them about relationship, our parents, most of them, it's like one out of two are the husband to be the wife. Unapata you are being placed. But for us, we are finding for ourselves. Then we find we are dating, we have so many depression, and then when we go to tell our parents, they are wondering, what is this that we are facing? And it's all because for them, they were taught you must live with that person. It's your husband. But for us, we are going, maybe for me, my intention was, maybe I see this person was my husband. And for that person, the person is just there to pass time. So you find they are taking advantage of me. So you find it will lead to depression, many mental illness. And then when I try calling the person, maybe he's an older version of our generation. There's a very big gap. And for him or her to be able to handle my situation, it will be a bit hard because of the gap. Yeah.
All right. I will get the psychologist in studio to also respond to that concern as well, because it's an issue. As much as you say the services are there, it's quite hard to access them. But Josh, why are men not speaking up when it comes to, their mental health and mental well-being? Why is it so hard for you to open up as a man?
For men, I can say we are brought up in this norm or where the men are believed to be more masculine, and whenever you talk yourself out of an issue, you feel like in a way you're becoming vulnerable. So men tend to retain the masculinity in them, feeling like this is just a challenge, and they'll walk out of it easily. So I think men try to undermine the effect of mental illness. Yeah.
King Josh, how do we break now from that cycle of, men not speaking up, stigma, as King Josh says, as Josh says, as Josh says, anasema kwamba there's a lot of masculinity among men, but we are talking about now in a different generation, even as Salah says, that there is a generational issue now. How do you break from that cycle? How do you as men break from that cycle?
Okay, thank you very much. So I want to say that sometimes there are archaic definitions of masculinity, and there's the masculinity which is really ideal for a man, I usually do the same in my very own paragons of great, trying to bring the same effect as they would like it to be, but appreciating the fact that we are living in a different generation. So what I mean by ideal masculinity is the fact that we accept the young man is undergoing a certain problem and making them understand that being vulnerable or breaking down is not a fail, as many individuals make it sound. And therefore, they should feel free to reach out to each and every person. And also, in our generation, in nowadays, we have this issue of empowerment. I think the young man is left behind so many miles away, and it's high time we bring the same. I usually say, let's empower the boy child and guide the girl. So for the boy child, what we need is just trying to make them understand and to break the chains and bonds of the archaic definitions. So tradition should not keep you, because you're a man and you're undergoing this and that, you should not speak up. You should speak up. And then there are these things, I wanted to comment on certain issues which have been raised, which are really interesting. One of our callers said or spoke about employment issues, which are bringing depressions and everything else. Most young men are tarmacking, which is really raising alarms, And what I want to say is this. The fact is that let's call a spade, not a big spoon. For example, we have a national problem, for example. We have had this issue of example, the Kotu issue, And sometimes the young people are feeling left out in these spaces. Most of the time when you speak of these several governmental jobs, how are they being brought to the individuals? These people are learned, educated, and they should therefore be given chances to exercise their career or professions in these various places. So what I'd just like to suggest to institutions, governments, it's true, yes, you've been there, but remember this young man wasted his time, or rather has taken his time to study. Let's give these pieces where it's due. Let's stop recycling a lot of people who are really old the same places. That's why most of the people are jobless nowadays. But also, let me say one thing. The cycle and the history and the time that we are living in has totally changed. Years ago, when our parents were receiving education for the very first time, various jobs had markets. Speaking from, I do law, you were just like a hot cake somewhere. Just waited to graduate immediately and you grabbed into your various careers. But nowadays, no, a lot of people have really gotten into these fields. For example, there's this accountancy stuff and a lot of people are into it. So we have to accept the fact that it's true you are doing that career, but remember one thing, that everything has changed. So what I'm going to tell my fellow youth is that follow your passion and invest in skills. Don't despise any form of job that is available and it will enable you to run away from depression, lack of funds. Let's just embrace every opportunity. You are a lawyer by profession, but that does not keep you in that very own problem.
Okay.
Just to add on that also.
Okay, Salat.
And also the question, you know, the reason as to why men do not speak up and, you know, open up and talk about their issues is because the societal expectation of what a man is and the definition of masculinity. And also, you talk about breakup issues and somebody will tell you, you are a man. Why do you talk about issues of breakup? Are you a lady? And also those kinds of issues. So many other issues. So people believe that men can overcome anything and they have mental resilience to overcome anything, and you are built to be like that. And it will be so petty of you to talk about some issues. And once you do that, you get judged for that and you get stigmatized. Yeah, as a man, that's what I can add. Yes.
So Celestine, this is still an issue. The way men and women express themselves in terms of the mental struggles that they have. But do you also address it differently when you're talking about gender? Because if men are struggling to open up about what they're going through, and for women, I would love to assume that you get a lot of clients who are female who talk to you with vulnerability openly about their condition. So how do you now address it differently if we are expressing ourselves differently in terms of gender?
Thank you so much, Anne. What I can say about that is that when it comes to mental health issues, no one is not able to go through issues. You know, no one is an exemption. So be it men, be it women, if it comes to seeking help, I advocate for men to come out. You know, because just the same way women go through issues, men also go through issues. And for women, it's usually even much better because with women, they speak out. You know, they can grab a friend and share what they are going through, and, you know, it's therapeutic on its own. But men just bottle everything inside, and through that, you get to understand that they are not able to express themselves and they don't get the help that they need. So for any young man there, a boy, a youth, an elderly man, I can say it's okay to seek help, you know, because seeking help is looking up to yourself. Yeah, so it's very important. And for men, they should not feel like they are lesser men when they speak out about their problems, you know, because they are not immune to issues. And speaking out is the beginning of now getting healing. Yeah, and just as my fellow panelists shared earlier, my fellow psychologists shared earlier, you can walk to a hospital. You know, there are mental health departments in most of the hospitals, so don't die alone. Walk into a hospital, ask for a mental health department. Yeah, and I believe in the mental health department, there are professionals there. And I being one of the professionals, I'm proud to be supporting clients at Nairobi Women's, the Gender-Based Violence Recovery Center. We handle all the cases. You see, that is a Gender-Based Violence Recovery Center. So men are also go through these issues, you know, be it intimate partner violence, be it sexual gender-based violence. Yeah, and when they walk into the facility, we handle them the same, because our concern as psychologists is for the wellness of this individual, the mental wellness of this individual. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. So let's say these men maybe who are going through, you know, abuse in their relationships, in their marriages, when they approach the desk, do they prefer talking to the women or the men? Who do they open up to? Because now it's a challenge, as they say, they don't want to speak up. Who are they more free to open up to?
You know how the men were brought up, you know, there's that masculinity. Men don't open up even to their fellow men. So it's actually a big problem, you know. Yeah, and that's how they end up, like, when you look at the statistics, you realize that the number of, when it comes to suicide issues, the number of people contemplating suicide, when you look at that rate, the number of women is very high, you know, considered to the number of men. But now, when it comes to now actualizing the act of committing suicide, you find that the number of men who commit suicide is very high than the women. What does that tell you? It tells you that women have avenues to process their issues, starting with talking out, which men don't do because of how they were brought up. They were told to man up, you know, mwanaume hafai kulia, mwanaume hafai complain and all that. Yeah, but I believe those are things that zimepitwa na wakati, because we are losing our young men. You know, we are losing our boys. Suicide cases have gone rampant. Even smaller boys commit suicide and you wonder what is happening. So I'd advocate that even for parents at home, let's treat these children like equally, you know, because you realize that the girls are treated like princesses, but the men are, you know, they're like, they're being treated, be a man even at an early age. Yet this is a man, when he grows up, he'll meet a girl who has been pampered and given all the love. And this girl expects the same from this man. Yet this man has nothing to give. It is not his fault because they've gone through childhood traumas even from their own parents. So my advice to the parents would be, don't be so rigid to the boy child, you know, because in future this will be someone's husband. You know, you expect your daughter to get married to a good man, a loving man. So the qualities you would wish for your girl to expect in a man, they are still the qualities that you as a parent needs to instill in this man. If it is love, show him love, you know. Of course, you wouldn't baby him, you wouldn't take care of him like a girl. But as much as you're showing this man, this young boy, to be responsible, you're also showing him in a loving manner. Yeah, because boys reach a place where they feel like they're not part of the family. Yeah, I've had cases actually. As psychologists, we uphold confidentiality. But I've had cases, if I just generalize, whereby clients are brought in, and that is children. When the boys are brought in for session, you realize that there's a big gap. You know, you realize this boy has no parental love. You know, they feel like they're isolated. They're not like part of the family. Whereas when you have a session with the girl child, you realize they're okay. It's just that maybe the ordeal that they went through. So as parents, I would encourage that we try and balance.
Be lenient to the boys as well.
Yes.
So Jessica, how do we get the men to speak up? Because you said you work with an organization that, of course, focuses on the youth in terms of just ensuring that they get mental health awareness. But now, how do we get the men to speak up? I'm assuming that in your organization there's gender balance. You do have men as well there. Are they coming? Are they speaking up? And how do we get them to speak up?
First of all, it begins with creating awareness like we're doing right now, and also fostering that mentality that they can speak up by just saying it the way we are saying it, that you should reach out, it's okay to reach out. That's the basis of it all. In our organization, if I can refer to that, the ratio between men and women, the women definitely outnumber the men. But we've tried to incur certain events that men are interested in, because I've realized a community-based platform gives confidence to men. For example, if maybe you're having maybe a football match, you can sponsor it as an organization. Maybe if you have any sort of competition or any topic that men might engage in, like recently I realized organizations are also bringing on board men talk. Men will show up and they strictly say men alone, they're supposed to come to the program. So by telling them first and also creating that platform for them to come in numbers, because it gives them confidence. I'm not alone. There's another man that is facing this thing. And when you hear another man saying, maybe it's about the unemployment issue, which takes a big toll on them in terms of provision and existing, surviving in these very harsh economic times. When you hear another man saying that he's going through economic issues, it tells you that you're not alone and it's okay to talk about it. In that same platform, people get ideas, people network, and it makes it easier to walk through the journey. So yeah, creating opportunities, platforms, creating awareness like we're doing right now, and also embracing any story that a man has. Like she said, confidentiality is very key in our profession. So a man, when you tell someone that your information is safe with me and you don't show any form of disbelief or make any facial expressions that make them feel less, it fosters them to feel like it's okay to open up, because they're going through the same issues, we're living in the same world, we have the same emotions. So it's okay for them to reach out, it's okay for them to look for community-based organizations and also events that bring them together.
So you're saying if somebody has an expressive facial expression, afai kukwavo, you'll be chasing them away. Rhoda, Kalen mentioned something about, access to mental health care being quite expensive in the country, even as you talked about this therapy, there's this counseling that when somebody calls this toll line, they'll find somebody on the other side to help them. But if it remains, a challenge and a burden in terms of just financial burden, what happens now when somebody is really, really depressed, is in the pits, but now they cannot afford to seek this help in terms of therapy and counseling? What happens in that case?
In that case, it depends on the therapist. Is the therapist in a position to be able to offer a pro bono service to you? Because we also acknowledge that this is the source of livelihood for this therapist. So there's a charge. So they can either subsidize the cost for you, or if they're in a position to, they can be able to give you a pro bono service. Or if they're not in the capacity to do that, they're going to be able to refer you to places where you can be able to seek help and you will not be required to pay. Yeah.
Karen, do you think it's easier for you as a lady to speak up about your mental health issues? Because we're hearing the men are saying, wanaongelea masculinity. But from where you sit, do you think it's quite easier to open up and talk about what you're going through and say, and go to Rhoda or Celestine or Jessica and say, enyewe, I'm in the pits, my emotional stability is in the gutters, I'm doing 1, 2, 3. Is it easier for you?
Okay, thank you so much. For me, an issue that I'm a leader, first, when I go maybe to someone, the people may expect that I have the best life, the perfect life, I don't have anything. So you find if I have an issue and maybe I'm in my institution, reaching out to Celestine, it's a bit hard. So the person who I'm expecting is maybe someone who is around. So when I go to telling them that maybe I have a relationship issue, it becomes quite hard. But maybe there are some ladies who find it a bit easier, but it's because most ladies, they can speak up. I give you maybe a story of another person, but initially I'm meaning it's my story. Or
my friend.
Yeah, my friend. My friend did this, my friend did this. How do you help that friend? Okay. But in most cases, people fear being judged. Because when maybe I tell you, this and this happened to me, this and this happened to me. One, the ladies know how to gossip. and I'm a lady, it's a fact. So I'll go tell him,
Yes,
you
a fact.
remember, you know Kalen. Kalen told me this and this and this. So the whole maybe institution, the whole workplace, everyone is talking about me. And for me now, that thing will more affect me more than how it affected before I shared. So I find it maybe it's, people view us that it's easier, but I find it maybe I go and speak up to a man, and I don't know if that man also will go and share with another person. So I find maybe it's a bit hard, and for some it's a bit easier. But in my case,
it's hard.
It's 50-50. Yeah.
I see you looking at Chelangat. Chela, how about you? Is it easier to speak up? I'm a pure nona. If you speak about your mental well-being or mental state, you'll be judged. Utambiwa, oh, you need to be strong. As Chelangat, you're a leader. How is it for you?
Thank you so much, Anne. Yeah, I'll say equally, it's really a challenge because, yeah, you are a leader. There's that expectation. And we go through a lot. But for me, I'll say it's possible because of the safe space that we have. And in my institution, for example, we have a very good support system. For example, we have the peer counseling department, and equally the people around me. My mom is my one cheerleader, so this is the person that any other time I feel kuna kakitu kameenda mrama kidogo, I'll just be like, Mom, this has happened.
That is living.
Yeah. This has really happened, and you know, we'll crack jokes, but at the end of the day, you've been assisted. And equally, there's this issue of, you know, thanks to the apps, nowadays you have these anonymous things. So you'll find that people will expose, like you'll open up in those links, and of course you'll find somebody will be like, once you post something that is a challenge, of course you won't talk like myself, but I'll be like, we are trying to help a situation at hand, and definitely I can't be like it's myself. So with that, you're able to get a feedback, and you'll know like, how do I pull through this? So I'll equally encourage, as the leaders, have a support system. Who is this person you talk to? Who is this person you rely on? Because actually it's overwhelming. It's really overwhelming because you have your studies, you have everything that has to be run. So like the environment, if the environment is toxic, get somewhere a safe space, because that is where you'll get rejuvenated, because you can't lead the rest if yourself you're wounded. You first need to work on you so that you'll be able to get the help. So even for the ladies, it's very possible, but the things that makes it easy for us to talk is the fact that tutapiga story, but I won't be saying it's me. We'll just be referring to someone else, but I'm the one being assisted.
All right. Josh, if you're talking, you're a leader at the Secretary General of CUSA. All right, I'm coming to you, but let's cross over to, is it Wamunyoro? Let's cross over to Wamunyoro, where the Deputy President is expected to, of course, in Westlands, not Wamunyoro, to launch his new party.